Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown, we are back to do it again. Another week.
Another week. I think this one's actually a little bit closer to a week as well, since we last convened to talk about It Chapter 2. It's been a tumultuous recording schedule, as we've talked about on the past couple episodes, but I feel like we are close to achieving some normalcy here. What do you think?
Absolutely. We got a plan. We're sticking to it so far. I think it's achievable. We got recording schedules for the back end ready. I think we're good.
So we're back on track. Watch, Review, Repeat, back on track. You heard it here first. We are talking about a film by the name of Ad Astra on this particular episode. It's a film I think that both of us have been looking forward to, I would say. Yes. Certainly a very intriguing trailer. Kind of a science fiction film that seemingly came out of nowhere. I think when the trailer first came onto the scene, at least it did for me. I didn't know anything about it until the trailer came along, and it made its way into theaters. We're going to talk about it shortly, but we can talk about it in one very specific fashion right now, if you'd like. I mean, do you have a fun fact about Ad Astra you'd be willing to share with the listeners?
I do have a fact for Ad Astra. So Ad Astra is Latin for "to the stars," and it's I saw a little clippet of the director explaining the phrase that it's come from, because there's a lot of Latin phrases that include Ad Astra. But the phrase that that he pulled it from was "ad astra per aspera," which is through hardships to the stars. And that saying or Latin phrase in particular has been used in numerous different places. I think the two most applicable places, I think, is it's actually placed on the Memorial Launch Complex 34 for Apollo 1, the first Apollo mission. Which is pretty cool. And it's apparently it's the phrase for Starfleet, according to Wikipedia.
As in, like, the Star Trek Starfleet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's obviously pretty historically been associated with space travel and such. Right. I mean, there's a lot of places, like I said, Ad Astra has been used a lot. I mean, it's a Latin phrase that's been used on all sorts of Latin literature and that sort of thing. But Latin as a language has been around for some time. Although maybe used a little less frequently these days, of course. But
yeah, so it's pretty cool little nugget of fact for you.
Well, that is.
Some would say it might be
pretty
fun.
Good. I thought it was fun. I actually, someone's going to be mad at me for saying this on the record, but I didn't know what Ad Astra meant. I didn't know what it actually meant translated. So now I do, courtesy of one Andrew Meadows. So thank you for that, first. Sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really cool. I feel like there's not a whole lot of housekeeping that we really need to get into at the top. Like I said, I think we're trying to get into a sense of normalcy, and we'll have some details at the end of the episode as far as bonus episodes, stuff like that's coming up on the horizon, because we will have news on that front. Okay, let's get into the news for this week. And as a side note, should be a little bit more manageable this week. I appreciate anyone that stuck with us through the hour and a half of news that we waded through on the It Chapter 2 episode. And anyone that waited through Andrew's hiccup controversy. I think we're both feeling pretty good for this episode, and I think we're on target for a good, well-paced episode, some well thought out discussion points, and some fun news to get into. So on that note, let's get into some fun news. What do you got, sir? I'm gonna put it over.
Kick it over to
first.
Me. We got a Ford versus Ferrari trailer, second one.
I don't know. You're looking forward to this, right?
I am very much looking forward to it. Starring Christian Bale and Matt Damon, yes.
Matt Damon.
And it looks really good. It looks really well put together.
Directed by Logan's James Mangold as well.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cinematography looks on point on this trailer. It looks like it's fast and it's kind of punchy. I use it as maybe a slight little pun, because there's some punching going on
There is some punchy. I didn't know if you were trying to get away from using the words fast and furious together because of the obvious connotation there.
But it is fast and it does look furious.
I mean, yeah, it's closer in breed to the Fast and the Furious than it is to anything that came after that. So yeah, there is that.
Yeah, but it looks like a well-made movie, and I tell you what, there's another trailer. We're not going to talk about it here. But I caught it on the trailer reel for at Astra.
Okay.
It's 1917. Holy shit. I think we talked about it before.
We did. Okay. So I was just gonna make a comment. I was like, well, we did talk about it.
We did talk about it
ago, but
I didn't. Well, this is the first time I've seen it in theaters. I saw it on IMAX theater.
Made more of an impact, you'd say?
Yes, and it looks fucking incredible. I am on board with that movie 110%. But yeah, just period piece movies are starting to get me kind of excited. At least those two movies are, anyways.
Yeah, well, I think this one seems like it has a really good amount of talent behind it, both I think in front of and behind the camera. Matt Damon and Christian Bale, it's a pretty good 1-2 punch you've got going right there. James Mangold, very capable director. It seems like a good story too. Obviously, period piece based off of Le Mans from, was it 1966?
The inception of the Ford GT, which is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, it seems cool, and I feel like the one thing that I think this trailer really sold for me. I'm not going to say that the first trailer didn't, but I feel like they leaned into it a little bit more. It's just the racing sequences. They really seem to be very kinetic, and just the sound design on them seems really, really bombastic, and kind of the way it should feel. Like it. Yeah, it felt really cool. So I'm excited to see this one.
The adjective I used.
Punchy.
For that.
I'll echo your sentiment that it feels punchy. I assume this is getting a premium screen release of some sort, like either a Dolby or an IMAX. Like it just feels like a movie that
definitely
would take advantage of that type of format, and so I will try to seek it out that way if I can. November 15th. This one's just I guess just under a couple months away.
Yeah.
November's loaded, by the way. I was just taking a look at the schedule. There's a lot of stuff coming out in November that it's like a 1 week after the other thing. So
we're getting into the holiday season, man.
Yeah, I think when November hits, we're gonna have to rethink our bi-weekly schedule, but that's we're not in November, so we'll deal with it when it comes to it. Okay. All right. Well, I think as it turned out, you have nothing but trailers, or at least videos on your end. So for the sake of variety, how about I offer you some news to spice things up? Is that
what do we got?
Is amenable? I will ask you how you feel about Hailee Steinfeld potentially joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the upcoming Disney Plus series Hawkeye, which will, of course, star your boy Jeremy Renner in it.
Oh, Jeremy and Hailee.
It will potentially Hailee, so this is not a done deal as of now, but she's being courted to play Kate Bishop, who is basically she basically became the new Hawkeye in the Matt Fraction run, which is, I think, a lot of people's favorite runs starring the Hawkeye character in recent memory. So she becomes Hawkeye. She becomes part of this group as known as the Young Avengers. So it feels like, with the way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going, where obviously with Endgame retiring some of the characters, it almost to me feels like there's going to be even more passing of the torch type situations happening. And I feel like this Hawkeye series could be that vehicle. Maybe it's a swan song for Jeremy Renner, or maybe, him stepping back at least from the Hawkeye role, and then in comes a Kate Bishop, potentially played by Hailee Steinfeld, to, be the Hawkeye moving forward. I think that's a good direction.
Jeremy's a pretty battered character, though. He's pretty damaged at this point,
He is, yeah, especially since they didn't undo, the time, the 5 years that elapsed, where I guess he had lost his family, and he lost himself in that process too. So I feel like, well, and that's an interesting thing too, is because presumably this series takes place post Endgame. I mean, It doesn't have to, obviously, but it seems like maybe that's a good way for him to try to find himself again.
Listen, I'm hanging out with my family now.
I think to train up a new Hawkeye, that way he can just properly retire and reunite with his family. But I feel like him, maybe training a new Hawkeye is his way of paying it forward and being like, I gotta atone for the shit that I did, even though I was theoretically killing bad guys or whatever. It's not exactly how I used to operate. That's a little bit more outside of my moral code. So maybe that's his way of kind of paying it forward. regardless of how the plot goes with this, Hailee Steinfeld, great.
Bumblebee?
Bumblebee, she was awesome in Bumblebee. Really, really liked her in Bumblebee. All the way back to True Grit. I feel like...
Yeah, dude. I forgot about that.
She was a little younger back then, of course.
Yeah, but still.
But I feel like
from that movie too.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could just see like she's got chops, and so I feel like if Marvel can land her really in any role, I know a lot of people were fan casting her for like Rogue, for like an upcoming X-Men reboot, and I think she'd be good at that too.
Cool. Yeah.
But I just think that you get someone of her caliber, it feels like a long-term investment, and I'm assuming that's kind of their game plan. So hopefully she signs on the dotted line, because I think it'd be a big get for Marvel particularly, and I think she'd be great in that role. And
it'd be a good get for her too.
Hawkeye series sounds pretty cool. I know we talked about it obviously when they announced it, but I'm pretty stoked to see what they do with the Hawkeye series. It seems like they're really leaning into those Matt Fraction influences, and I feel like
always enjoyed those characters too, because they seem a little bit more, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, they're not grounded, but I mean, they're certainly more grounded than some of the other people in the Marvel universe, so.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have superpowers. He's got a bow and an arrow,
Right. He's just super talented dude, so I think it's cool.
Yeah, so that's my first piece of news that I'll offer up is Hailee Steinfeld possibly going to be Kate Bishop. A big fan of that. What else you got for me?
If we're talking returning roles, let's talk about the official teaser for El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, a Netflix movie too.
Yeah. This is so we did talk about this very briefly. I think actually the last episode, because they put out the date announcement where it had like Skinny Pete, and he was, they were interviewing him. This is our first look at Jesse Pinkman, Aaron Paul back.
He's seen some shit.
He's seen some shit.
Hearing about the season finale from the
right. And I was just gonna say, like, I think that kind of ties into what we talked about last episode. It was like, well, where does this fit in? Do we need to care about Better Call Saul? I think if this is any indication, the answer is no. You should definitely watch Breaking Bad, because otherwise, I might be missing a few things here and there. But yeah, it definitely feels, at least timeline wise, like they're picking up maybe almost immediately after,
which is something that, if I remember right, it's been years since I watched the series, but that's something that they did frequently with season reboots and stuff. They usually didn't they? I'm
not following what you're saying.
Like the way that the continuance from season to season, and a lot of it ended. One episode ended here, and then immediately after it was during the events of that episode, and they kind of cross-lapsed and stuff. Do you remember that, or am I remembering wrong?
I don't particularly remember that, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. It has been a little while since I watched the series myself as well, so I would say that's probably
definitely an interesting place where they chose to.
I feel like they never really jumped around too much in timelines between seasons. At least, I think it was all very continuously flowing as a series. Like it felt like one season really felt like it fed into the next one in a pretty logical and
what a good show.
Continuous
manner.
Was
fucking good.
It was a good show, and it was a tight show too. And obviously, say what you will about unnecessarily expanding the universe. I think we talked about it last week, quite a bit, but I did confirm that this is written and directed by Vince Gilligan, who was the creator of Breaking Bad, creator of I almost called it Breaking Call Saul again.
Which I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that show.
No, and neither of us seen that. And and again, we did talk about it just a little bit last week, so I don't think we need to totally hammer on the same points. Although people probably tuned out by the time we got to that point, or they just skipped to our It coverage because it's like hour and a half. Fuck you, I'm not listening to that. Fair response, by the way.
Although they probably missed our Mortal Kombat.
The Mortal Kombat coverage was excellent. Make sure you check out the timestamps for the Mortal Kombat coverage, because you don't want to miss that. It was awesome. It was really fun actually to listen back to when I was editing. So neither of us have watched Better Call Saul. Heard it's amazing. I feel like it's universally regarded as being pretty amazing. So it's something I would like to go back and watch. And maybe this is something that inspires either of us to go back and watch Better Call Saul, because we're maybe more in the Breaking Bad spirit. So this is coming to Netflix October 11th. It's also getting a limited theatrical release, but only on that weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday is your only window to see it theatrically, which I feel like is probably just so it can be, thrown into awards consideration, assuming it's good, of course. But But I think that's kind of the idea, because I think you're supposed to have some sort of theatrical release to be like Oscars eligible and such like that. I think eventually that requirement will go away with, the way streaming services are moving these days. But for now, I think we're still kind of stuck in that past. So like what I see so far, like that they haven't revealed too much, and I like that this is only a few weeks away. So I feel like this probably will be the last time we talk about it. They will probably, again, put out a full trailer for this that gives a little bit more away. But I feel like since it's so close, now that we've talked about it 2 weeks in a row, I feel like we can maybe,
pump the brakes,
hold off on it for now. And I don't know if we'll get a chance to do a full episode on it or anything, but we'll definitely talk about it in some capacity when it does come out. I think that's a sure bet. I guess it's my turn then, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you got? Break it up with some little bit of news. I don't know that theme song. I've wiped it from my recollection.
You're like, what is this man doing? I don't understand. He's just making music with his mouth. I don't understand. This is not the first time that Game of Thrones. This is not the last time that Game of Thrones will come up on this episode. As a side note to our listeners, Game of Thrones. Looks like HBO is close to greenlighting yet another prequel series.
Another one
around Game of Thrones. Yes, so they're already filming one with Naomi Watts and company, which is The Long Night or whatever it's going to be called. Like, way back in time, Bran the Builder, White Walkers, whatever. Who knows what's going on with that? But it's filming, so that one's like for sure happening. There's no question about that. That'll probably be coming out within the next couple of years. This is another one, completely separate from that, timeline-wise, completely separate from that. Also a prequel to the events of the series. It is supposed to be set about 300 years before the events of the series and tracks the beginning of the end for a very familiar house, the House Targaryen. And it is going to be, I guess, based off of the Fire and Blood book that George R.R. Martin put out last year or the year before that, whenever that came out, which is basically itself just kind of like a history of the Targaryens. But it's not, I think the way that book is written, it's not like a super narrative format. Like it's almost closer to a history book where it's just like a summary of events and stuff like that. It's written in a very, very different style than what A Song of Ice and Fire is. Okay. But on the one hand, I suppose you could make the argument that the source material is there. So if someone is adapting it, they at least theoretically have something, a beginning, middle, and end to work from. But so that's what's going on. It's going to be George is going to be a producer on it, of course. There's a guy named Ryan Condal who is apparently going to be one of the co-creators on it.
Not Ryan
He's
Coogler.
Worked on. Not Ryan Coogler. I definitely not Ryan Coogler. He's busy doing Black Panther 2 and probably some other projects if I had to guess. He's a guy that worked on the show Colony.
That was on what, CNN or not CNN? Jesus Christ!
I was thinking it was USA or something.
It was.
It was USA.
Yeah,
that was the one with Josh Holloway from Lost and Sarah Wayne Callies, who was
from
Lori,
many moons
Walking
ago,
Dead.
if I remember right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's done now, but I feel like it only ended within the past year or two, if I had to guess. I think it got a few seasons. I never watched it. It was like an alien invasion type thing, as far as I'm aware. But I never watched it. I don't know if it was good or not. No clue. But either way, he's on it. And like I said, I guess the word is that, like HBO had been developing like 900,000 Game of Thrones prequels, which I think was before the final season happened. And I feel like, they may have slowed a little bit on the development front with maybe some of the reception of that. Although maybe some things that we'll talk about in just a little while may make them feel a little bit more confident about proceeding forward with more Game of Thrones material. But the way that this is being reported suggests that it's not like it's not like a full-on go from from HBO saying like, yeah, make it, go for it. But if we're getting this much information on it, if they're getting a showrunner basically ready for it, that to me feels like it's just it's pretty much a done deal,
right?
To at least make a pilot, to at least shoot a pilot, see how it goes. Obviously, if the pilot sucks and they're like, all right, well, maybe not, then at that point they can always pump
the brakes,
cancel it at that point. But Yeah, so just as a broad question for you, are you still in the post Game of Thrones burnout, or is this anything that excites you? I guess is kind of the question.
I think covering what do they call that? The Doom of Valyria.
I don't know. It sounds like it's probably before what this would be, if I had to guess timeline wise. I don't know that for a fact, but
I guess it's Targaryens. It's not necessarily it's not Valyria. They came from Valyria. So maybe that would be the beginning of the season or the series.
Maybe, but I assume it's probably they're them conquering Westeros and ruling Westeros and
okay.
such and such.
Yeah, well then I'm less interested now. Thank you for extinguishing that.
Oh, here we go. I found something. The Targaryen history book, a companion to the Song of Ice and Fire, goes back to a time when House Targaryen, the only family of dragon lords to survive the Doom of Valyria, took up residence on Dragonstone. So I would think the series would probably
just their conquest over Westeros.
If it's based on the book, it would be exactly. It would be the conquest of Westeros. But maybe you could get pieces of lore kind of thrown in there, like little bits of history of the Targaryen family and what does it mean to survive the Doom of Valyria. It sounds cool as shit, but what does that actually mean? I don't know. I would kind of just be interested in Valyria. Like, if you want to continue all this stuff, okay, you want to do the super old history, that's pretty cool, right? Get Children of the Forest, maybe, or whatever, but you cover some of the, what was Essos? Is that where Valyria was at? That sounds right, doesn't it? The continent of Essos? I think there's a continent of Essos, yes.
Covering the other side would be pretty cool.
Getting out of Westeros.
There's other places that could be covered. I don't necessarily need to see Westeros 300 years before Game of Thrones.
And presumably we're also going to see it thousands of years before in the other prequel they're doing.
Yeah, so I mean, I know what I mean. So I'm just kind of, I don't know. Well, when it comes on, of course I'll fucking tune in. I'll do it.
I think that's what we said when we talked about the other prequel, and I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat. We're like, yeah, I'll give it a look, but like, it's hard to care. Like, it's hard to get excited. Like, if they stuck the landing, oh yeah, I'd be like, gung-ho, let's see more of this world. I really want to see how this world, because I know that it's going to end in a satisfactory manner. When I know how it all really ends, it's kind of just like,
okay,
yeah.
Or maybe we could get a Game of Thrones sequel with Bran being king. That's what I really want to see. Just Bran sitting on the Iron Throne, flying around with his crows.
Look at the birdies. Bran, would you like to rule the kingdom, Bran?
No.
I'm going to go away now.
Jesus Christ. Well,
all right.
I have something entertaining I recently watched. Very recently watched.
Okay.
And I thought for a moment here I was dreaming, and I thought I was at a theme park, and I kind of thought it was just the things that you watch before you hop on a roller coaster. I kind of thought that that's what this was, but I'm referring to the Battle at Big Rock, a all new Jurassic World short film that was recently released.
Because everyone was clamoring for an all new Jurassic World short film,
right? It's a what? I found it particularly shitty. I did laugh. The little girl was pretty funny. She's watching the dinosaurs fight and just like, that's a herbivore and that is definitely a carnivore. That's a blah 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 Rex or whatever. And
quality wise, it does have that feel of a theme park where you're just like, in your heart it's shitty, but you're just like, it's theme park production values. Like for a theme park, like this is fucking cool or whatever. But like as like something that you just put directly on YouTube, and it's just like,
little girl shoots that dinosaur in the eye with the fucking crossbow.
I mean, I was like, I think I was taking a step back and being like, this is, big dumb whatever. But like, I guess it's free on YouTube, and so I can't be too mad about it. And then the end happened, and I'm just like, no, I think I'm worse for watching this, to be honest.
Definitely not. I mean, I don't know.
I will say this. It was better than Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, the movie was. If only by the virtue of the fact that this is 8 minutes and 39 seconds in total versus the 2 hours that ran for. This was less insulting to my intelligence than that movie was. I'll pay $10,000 for all of your dinosaurs. Oh, that's a great deal. Sold.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, so I don't know. It happened. It's like when I don't know. Sometimes things happen, and it makes you question the world you live in.
That happens, I think, on a daily basis, does it not?
It does. It's like what's going on here? Is this the world that I grew up in?
Timeline? Jurassic World short films.
Someone snapped their fingers. We're post snap, is what it is. Something happened.
That's what happened. I guess my thing with this is obviously they spent some money on it because the CG looked pretty good, but it's also just kind of just like, I don't know. I guess I take a step back and like, when they put out the Blade Runner stuff, I thought that was cool.
That was cool.
It was cool, and maybe it's because I gave a fuck about Blade Runner.
You have a bias? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's probably it. It's just like I don't have a desire. Like if they never made another Jurassic Park film, I'd be fine. I'd be totally fine.
I'll tell you what. I'll give it this. If they had a viral marketing campaign, I know I talk about this on, it seems like I talk about this on like an episode by episode basis, but if they had this viral marketing campaign with like little snippets of fucking like handheld cell phone cameras of dinosaurs doing crazy shit like in the credits,
like dinosaurs on Earth, like they've been released out of captivity.
They throw the doves and the fucking pterodactyl comes in and swoops in and eats the dove. And like, oh shit, and the camera's all fumbling around and stuff. I think that's good. I would have taken...
That'd be more effective than just putting out a short film that's like, it's a theme park ride, okay, like this exists, and like obviously, like we can definitively say that it exists, but I'm not sure we can say much more beyond that, other than this is definitely a thing.
Yeah,
we've definitely seen it.
That's it. So I don't know. Like I said, I think that I enjoyed the credit sequence. I thought that the credit little snippets were funny. Like the shark jumps out of the water and eats the fish, and then that giant thing comes out of the water and eats the shark.
Oh, I didn't even make it that far.
You didn't watch those?
More stuff.
Yeah, they throw the doves out, and a pterodactyl swoops in and eats the dove.
Okay, so your idea is a lot less original than I was originally giving you credit for. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, definitely. There's a little girl running around from those little green things from Jurassic World 2, the little green ones. She's running she's running away from them like they're seagulls chasing kids on a fucking beach. She's crying and running around it's pretty good. I actually enjoyed the last part.
I see. Okay, yeah, I'm looking through it now. I'm not actually watching. I'm just kind of scanning through frame by frame, but yeah. I mean, that seems like a lot more cost effective than having a big CG battle in a fucking short film. Because they're making a third one, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, well, you could have just taken that $5 to $10 million you probably spent on this and, use it on the fucking movie itself.
Right.
Because I think the thing with the Blade Runner things is like the ones that were live action clearly didn't cost anything to shoot, and the one that probably would have cost a lot to shoot was an animated one. So it was just kind of like that makes sense, like.
And it was
use your money on your film
thing, though, right? I thought that was the whole premise, or was it not?
This one?
No, not that one. The Blade Runner one. They had like 5 directors from all over the world come and direct these little snippets. That's cool. That's a cool thing.
Well, I don't think it was like a competition.
I guess it wasn't.
It was more just like recruiting some different talents to be involved. Well, that is definitely different here. This is literally directed by Colin Trevorrow, who I'm pretty sure is directing the third one.
It doesn't. That does not build.
It does not inspire confidence. It's also written by him and the writer that's also writing the third one. So, anyway, Universal, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? What are you doing?
And they changed the continental formation on the Earth to reflect a dinosaur, which is pretty cool. In the beginning, I saw that.
Well, that is pretty cool, then, isn't it?
Yeah. Give us some good news. You got any good news?
Maybe, I don't know. Who's to say? I have DC news. I always have DC news. I'm the DC guy, resident DC guy. I've got James Gunn coming in hot with some casting for the Suicide Squad.
With the fucking cast in this movie.
Yeah, he put a post on Twitter, a tweet, I believe the kids call it, and it's for his upcoming film, The Suicide Squad, which is I think a pseudo sequel, technically speaking, to the first Suicide Squad, which is an absolute pile of shit. For anyone curious that hasn't seen it, do not watch it. But it's definitely him putting his own bent on it. There's some returning cast members, but he's bringing a lot of new blood into the DC universe with the Suicide Squad. So let me just read out the list of names that he's assembled here. So we've got David Dastmalchian, John Cena, Jai Courtney back as
Do we
Captain
know who
Boomerang.
these people are playing?
No, see, and that's I mean, aside from the people returning, we can only speculate on who these people are playing. But I think the general expectation is that, James Gunn's kind of a weird guy. He likes to get, obscure with his references, and I think people are expecting him to bring in some funky ass characters like Polka Dot Man. Like that's the type of character that people are expecting to see in this movie.
The fuck's
a King Shark
man?
Type, coming in, just like totally off the wall characters that will probably be like Rope Guy from the first one that, get their heads blown up in like 5 seconds. Like this is a Slipknot. He can climb anything. And then he just like tries to climb something. Is like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And then they just blow him up. And like, I feel like half these characters are going to be that, where it's just like, it's an actual Suicide Squad. Like these guys are just assholes. These guys are just, low rate villains, but it's just like, well, the government doesn't give a shit about them. They think they're expendable. Let's go dump them in to do some Black Ops stuff and not fight Superman type villains, like things that the Suicide Squad should actually do. That's kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen with this. So I don't know who any of these characters are. If I can identify any of them, I will mention it alongside the cast name. So David Dastmalchian, don't know who he's playing. John Cena, don't know who he's playing. Jai Courtney, back as Captain Boomerang. Joaquin Cosio, don't know who he's playing. Nathan Fillion. Oh my God. Joel Kinnaman back as Rick Flag.
Excellent.
Awesome. Mei Ling Ing. Flulaborg.
Flulaborg.
Fucking Flulaborg.
What?
Sean Gunn. Juan Diego Boto. Storm Reed. Pete Davidson, SNL's very own. Taika Waititi in here.
Taika Waititi?
Taika Waititi was in here. Yeah, he's jumping ship from Marvel to DC, but he's gone back to Marvel. So is James Gunn, for that matter. Alice Braga, Steve Agee, Tanashi Kajisi, Daniela Melchior, Peter Capaldi, Doctor Who, Julio Ruiz, Jennifer Holland, Viola Davis back as Amanda Waller, Idris Elba, apparently playing not Deadshot as he was originally reported, but some new character. Margot Robbie back as Harley Quinn. Michael Rooker. And that's it. There was another thing at the bottom, but it's just the logo for the movie. I was thinking it was another character. The Suicide Squad is going to appear in the Suicide Squad. It's a pretty good fucking list, if you ask me. Like, and I have faith in James Gunn to deliver what David Ayer could not do. Also, notable omission from this list. Sorry, Jared Leto. You ain't in this shit. You ain't in it.
Worst Joker. Anyways, I noticed when you go to the IMDb and you look up a full cast and crew, is the cast billing? How do they stack the cast billing? Do you know this?
It depends. For a pre-release thing, I'm not sure how they do it. Typically, for post-release films, it's either in alphabetical order or by credits order, depending on kind of just.
But pre-release, there's no specific kind of deal.
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm not sure. Because
I noticed
typically it should be in order of main billing, but like Margot Robbie was towards the bottom of the poster, whereas I feel like she would be very close to being top billed, if not outright the top billed actor in the film. But maybe she's only in it for a bit part. I don't know. So.
Flulaborg. Jesus Christ.
Is he listed at number 1?
No, he's down at the bottom. But interesting, Nathan Fillion's pretty high up there, and Idris Elba's pretty high up there too. Taika Waititi's billed number 2.
Probably be.
Margaret Robbie's listed number 1, and Taika Waititi is number 2.
Yeah. So I don't know how accurate that is. Also, billing is weird. It's all just lawyers, negotiating, fighting. Being like, I want my name to be here, or I want them to have the "and" designation so they appear at the end of the cast credits and such. So whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's what's going on with the Suicide Squad. Are you in on the Suicide Squad?
I'm in on James Gunn, and I'm in on that ridiculous cast.
Right. I think it's going to be fun. I think so. I think if nothing else, it'll be a spectacle. I feel like it feels like a property that James Gunn could run with in the way that he did with Guardians. And I think it's unfortunate that we had that first movie to unfortunately
introduce us to the Suicide Squad.
Taint people's expectations of what the Suicide Squad property is.
Although I don't know how tainted it is, because I know all sorts of people that dressed up as Harley Quinn and just love that Joker and just absolutely
love that Joker.
Yeah, precisely. So I don't know. I don't know. To each their own, I suppose.
To each their own, we suppose. Yeah, that's right.
I got another trailer for you.
All right.
And this is in the form of... I could have probably led with this one coming off of it too, but we got a Dr. Sleep final trailer. Starring no other than Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm. Ewan McGregor, that's right. Playing little, but not so little anymore, Danny Torrance.
That's it. And things are a little like weird. Like I'm talking at a place because I haven't read Doctor Sleep, and I don't know anything about the book of The Shining or anything else. So, but it seems like a huge departure from. I mean, I guess if The Shining is supposed to be like an introduction to, telepathic and like supernatural things, and naturally somebody gets twisted up by it. They don't know how to interact with it, and they see all the ghosts and stuff inside the hotel and just freak somebody out and get some fucking crazy and stuff, and then you get the little boy who's able to see through it, because they do talk about that in the original Shining. And then this is the actual larger implications of that universe. I mean, I guess it makes sense, because you really don't have a whole lot to go on. But at the same time, it feels like a fucking X-Men movie or something. It just feels kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like the first trailer that we got felt very much like a Shining.
Yeah, it did.
In line with like the Shining, like
totally.
Felt like a proper Shining sequel. Whereas this one, again, maybe because it's based off of the book that kind of diverged in this sort of way, or took more of a deep dive on this sort of thing. This trailer, I'm not going to say that like I think it looks still interesting.
It does.
But I thought the first trailer was more in line with probably what I expected or wanted out of something like this. Whereas this kind of like, it looks fine. It's just...
It looks different. It looks
different. Yeah, I think it's just different.
Associating it with The Shining seems strange. But at the same time, like I said, if you put it in perspective of like the larger universe of The Shining or whatever.
Right. And for what it's worth, I don't think this is technically intended to be a true sequel to the film. I think it's supposed to be somewhere between a sequel to the novel, the original novel, and the film. So it's kind of like its own weird separate thing. So maybe they're just pulling elements that were absent from the film, while obviously retaining visual references to the film. I mean, that much is apparent from both the trailers that we've seen and that we talked about.
And I actually, on a different thing, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but I didn't realize that all like Stephen King's books have like this whole like encompassing
macroverse.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if we got into it or not in the It episode, because I was pretty toasty.
A little bit, not a whole lot. But
yeah, I mean, I took a deep dive on the wiki before It too, or after It too. And we probably should have got into it, but like I said, I was pretty toasty. I was pretty tired after 2 hours of news. Anyways,
it was an hour and a half for the record. Fucko.
Everything's connected in his books, or at least it seems like a lot of things are connected in a lot of his books, and it seems really interesting. I don't know where The Shining and Doctor Sleep fall into the universe, or if they're a separate deal or not. But
yeah,
it would make sense if they were connected in some way, especially after seeing something like this. Seems like it's kind of all falls in line. But anyways, separate deal. Stephen King's got a big universe of things, so that's cool.
That's and so maybe this plays within that. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out November 8th.
That's it.
Won't we? Yeah, I think it looks cool. I said it's different, obviously, than I think than
We
just
both
being
were
a proper
expecting. Yeah.
the shiny 2.0. But maybe differentiating it's a good idea. We'll find out. CW news. Come on, get hype. Get hype.
Well, here. Wait, DC Universe. Never mind. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. Forget me. Forget me? Just forgive me. Don't forget me. I'm sorry.
Goodbye. You have been forgotten, but not forgiven. The Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's the big, massive crossover. Arrow's about to end. Final season for it, and shit's hitting the fan. Mega crossover. It's going to have Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and Batwoman.
Oh my
5 episodes. 3 episodes airing in December, and then the last 2 airing in January. We got some pretty big casting news for anyone that's been a mainstay of the CW or its predecessor, the WB. Tom Welling is back as Clark Kent from Smallville for Crisis on Infinite Earths.
So he plays a different universe as Superman?
Right. So he's going to be literally playing the Clark Kent from the Smallville universe, which is now a part of the multiverse of the CW verse, of the Arrowverse. So at some point, he's going to have to cross over from his reality into other realities. And they've played with a bunch of multiverse stuff for seasons now, so that's nothing new. There was the Nazi universe where everyone was Nazis.
I think I saw that one. That was
a few seasons ago.
Musical episode?
There was a musical episode with Flash and Supergirl as well.
Or maybe that's a separate thing. I don't know. I'm lost. I shouldn't act like I know what I'm talking about.
We're both behind. I think you're more behind than I am, but we're definitely both very behind. But I feel like we've talked about the casting for Crisis on Infinite Earths like multiple times already. Tyler Hoechlin back as Superman, Brandon Routh playing the Kingdom Come Superman, Kevin Conroy playing fucking Bruce Wayne.
Who's playing Kingdom Come Superman?
Brandon Routh, the Ray Palmer, the Atom from CW stuff, also Superman from Superman Returns.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now there's going to be another Superman, or at least a Clark Kent. We'll see if Tom Welling actually puts the fucking suit on, because he never did that for Smallville. But yeah, he's going to be back. I know people were clamoring for this. People love Smallville. Never watched it myself. It's too long. I don't think I'll ever watch it because it's like 10 seasons. But Kevin, our friend Kevin.
That was like high school Superman, right?
Basically, yeah. It was him growing up in Smallville as like a teenager.
Fail?
And did he fail?
There were 10 seasons of him in high school being Superman.
Well, I assume he graduated at some point, but it's a real South Park situation where you're just in 4th grade for 20 seasons now. Or whatever, 3rd grade, I don't know.
He might be a Superman, but he's not very fucking smart.
This is The Simpsons. Bart Simpson's been in elementary school for 30 years now. But anyway, so anyone that likes Smallville, I think, is probably going to be pretty excited to hear that Tom Welling's coming back. He's been resistant to kind of come back for this role, but like I said, people I think have been clamoring for it to happen for a long time, and lo and behold, it's happening. Joining him, Erica Durance. She played the Lois Lane from Smallville. She's also going to be back, but she also now plays Supergirl's mom on Supergirl. She was a recast. She didn't originally play her, but they recast the character, and she plays that. So it's kind of confusing.
Who's part of the sex cult?
Matter. That was Allison Mack, who is not going to be appearing in this. I'm not sure what her status is, but I assume that she's either out on bail or currently serving a sentence.
Because she's part of a sex cult?
Well, I don't think it was that she was part of it. I think she was one of the ringleaders, which
she's
makes it a little bit more serious. Yeah, Christ. I mean, you could point to people being involved in a sex cult as victims. I think when you're the one shepherding part of the operation, that makes you a little bit more culpable.
Lord have mercy.
But I think she might have flipped on like the big ringleader or something like that. But she's still going to get whacked for that if she hasn't already. Don't know what the latest is on that. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. She is not going to be in Crisis on Infinite Earths, barring some sort of poor decision making over the CW. So that's that. Look forward to Crisis on Infinite Earths later this year. One last trailer for you, and then I've got one last piece of news. Let's run through it. What do you got, sir?
I got an incredible trailer for Frozen 2.
Wow, you're already proclaiming it as incredible. Digging it?
Yeah, definitely digging it.
Looks really fucking good.
Yeah, it does. I like me.
Looks beautiful too. Like I think it's both beautiful and looks good.
I think we're going to get more of the. I think we're going to get more of that ultra realistic sand from. What
was that from?
That was from the Dragons. How to Train Your Dragon Part 3.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was. Oh, dude, that was so ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
It was
I don't know how realistic the sand was.
I think they just filmed sand and just tricked us.
Right. I think we're going to get more of that, but we might get it with some water or something because there's a lot of water play going on in there, or snow or whatever. But it definitely looks like a pretty movie. And I like where they're going with this. I like the story direction. I think it seems interesting.
I like that they're getting more expansive with it, and they're not afraid to do that. Like that feels like a good progression.
Expand that universe, man.
Right, and like obviously Frozen made $1 billion plus. Of course, it was getting a sequel. Not that was any doubt. But it's been years since the first one came out, and
that's what kind of inspires a little bit of. I mean, that kind of. I don't know. It
doesn't feel like a pumped out.
Right.
It
seems like they're spending a little bit of time on it. Wait till technology gets a little bit better. Maybe they're gonna do something a little bit different with the tech. And I don't know. It looks, and they're taking it. I think the people certainly look a little bit older.
I assume there's definitely some sort of time jump to age up the characters as well.
Yeah. So I mean, the characters are going to be in a different position. I mean, it just seems like a lot of time and effort went into it.
For sure. It definitely, I guess it does not feel in any sort of way like a cash grab. It really feels like Disney's going for it with it, which is good. Like that's
what Disney
I feel like they've been doing really well recently with their animated output, but I unabashedly love the first Frozen, saw it 4 times in theaters. So
it's pretty good. I saw that Frozen 30-minute short film. If you want to call it that.
Okay, well that wasn't great. I only saw that once in theaters, and that was more than enough for me. I would have been fine seeing it 0 times.
Yeah, but yeah, Frozen's pretty great. So.
Hi, I'm Olaf. Here's my Frozen adventure.
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
Why are you 30 minutes?
Jesus. Anyways, so that's all I got. Boom, there it is. Frozen looks good.
It does look good. All right. Well, we've got one last piece of news to cover, and it's where Game of Thrones comes back into the fold. The top award getter at the 71st Emmy Awards, coming away with 12 awards.
12 awards, Jesus.
Shame. Now, to be fair, so I think how the Emmys works is there's a lot of awards that get presented pre the television broadcast, and then they save kind of the bigger awards for the TV broadcast. So there's a lot of like creative stuff that gets handed out kind of beforehand. So a lot of the Game of Thrones wins, I think, were from that. It only won, I believe, 2 awards on like from the TV broadcast. It aired last night, Sunday night, the 22nd, just for the record. So I'll go through kind of the ones that stand out to me. We'll be here a while if we got into everything, but we can go ahead and just get it out of the way. Outstanding drama series, that's what Game of Thrones won for. I'm not sure what it was up against off the top of my head, but I can guarantee everything else was better than its final season. So this is obviously a legacy award, awarding the series rather than the season.
It does. I mean, as a legacy, it does. I mean, it's a pretty outstanding series.
Yeah,
really.
and like it may have won in the past for drama series. I can't recall off the top of my head. I'm sure it's won at least once or twice before. Yeah, it's hard to argue with it. I mean, we obviously spent many hours
finale aside,
coverage of the entire series. But yeah, final season aside, maybe final 2 seasons aside,
it was a cultural fucking shift. I mean, it's a massive show.
I think it interested a lot of people in a pseudo, a sort of genre that I think people usually don't, poke their heads into. It's a drama with fantastic elements, but it definitely got more fantasy towards the end. It still retained obviously dramatic elements, but I feel like it kind of shifted gears from being just a proper drama with the fantasy seated end to being a lot more fantastical with just straight up fucking dragons and shit. Yeah, as a legacy thing, it's fine. Like I said, I don't know exactly what else was nominated, so it's hard for me to particularly say that something else deserved it more. But again, as something looking at the final season, it didn't deserve to win anything. it's sad to say. But I do feel like, aside from this, it got shut out of the most egregious wins that I think it could have gotten. Like D&D, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss did not personally win anything for writing or directing, which I think is good. I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
So I'll just run through some of the other stuff real quick. Fleabag won Outstanding Comedy Series. I've heard amazing things about that. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the executive producer, creator of that. I think she won 2 other awards at least on the night, so she was doing really well for herself. In terms of acting, we can talk about some acting awards. There was 4 actresses nominated from Game of Thrones for Best or Outstanding Supporting Actress, and all of them lost. And they were beaten out by Julia Garner, who was on Ozark, which is a show I've watched part of the first season of, and she was good in that, but don't know enough about it. And that's my thing with the Emmys. I can't get into too much depth with any of these because I just don't watch enough fucking TV. Like it's just impossible to.
There's
like,
a show here that won that we both watched.
I think we can. Yeah. Well,
Chernobyl.
I mean, yes. Right. Yeah, Chernobyl obviously definitely a deserved win for a lot of the miniseries categories that it was up in.
19 nominations.
And I came away with, I feel like a pretty decent amount of those.
It's pretty great. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
10. Yeah, won 10 awards in total. So
HBO crushed this the Emmys, though, from what I'm reading.
Yeah, I think they did really well. I mean, just between Game of Thrones and Chernobyl, I think were the top 2 award getters overall, so that alone I think probably speaks volumes about how well they did.
Last Week Tonight with John Oliver won again for looks like since 2016, 3rd year in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think SNL won for sketch series, and it's like I don't. Yeah, I haven't watched Last Week Tonight in a little while myself, but I like John Oliver.
Over the years, it's received 270 nominations. Saturday Night Live. Oof. For outstanding.
Oh, okay. SNL. I was going to say, Last Week Tonight has not been around that long.
Yeah, 270 nominations. But I mean, SNL's been around since what, the fucking 45th season. Decades. Yeah. So, but anyways.
Anyway. Jason Bateman won for directing for Ozark. Good on him. Jodie Comer won for Killing Eve, Outstanding Lead Actress, another show that I really should watch and haven't. Billy Porter, lead actor in Pose. People were really excited about that. Haven't seen the show. Peter Dinklage won for Tyrion Lannister for Game of Thrones. It's about stories, really. Who has a better story? But anyone except for Bran the Broken.
Jesus. He didn't write it.
He did. He did as well as he could. Yeah, Chernobyl, Outstanding Limited Series. Bandersnatch, Outstanding Television Movie. Craig Mazin won for writing on Chernobyl. Johan Renck won for directing on Chernobyl. Bill Hader won for Barry, Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series. Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Fleabag from Fleabag for Comedy Series. There's more. That's not an exhaustive list. Go check it out for yourself. Like I said, it's hard for me to weigh into too much in terms of like, oh, the Emmys got it right, or oh, the Emmys got it wrong. I can safely say that they got it wrong on the drama series.
What's the deal with Ozark, though? Do you know anything about that show? Do you know the premise?
So it's Jason Bateman, and he takes his family and they move down to the Ozarks, which are in Missouri, I believe. And I forget exactly how it starts, but he, I believe, begins selling drugs down there. So it's a sort of Breaking Bad-esque.
It's a Breaking Bad situation.
Yeah, I think he's just selling stuff. I don't think he's producing anything. I think it's more just like he gets into a bad way at work or something like that, and so he basically has this opportunity to go move from wherever he is to this, basically the middle of nowhere, and make a killing money-wise and take care of his family and stuff like that. That's probably a little bit inaccurate. Like I said, I saw part of the first season, but that was years ago, so I don't exactly remember the full details on it. But anyway, that's the Emmys. Like I said, go check out the winners for yourselves. That's that. That's the Emmys. I think that's the news as well. Would you like to talk about the film for this week?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Ad Astra. To the Stars. Is that right?
To the Stars. It's correct.
Written by James Gray and Ethan Gross, directed by James Gray, stars Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, Ruth Negga, Liv Tyler, and Donald Sutherland. It's about astronaut Roy McBride, who undertakes a mission across an unforgiving solar system to uncover the truth about his missing father and his doomed expedition that now, 30 years later, threatens the universe. We'll briefly talk some box office.
Box office breakdown.
I feel like this rates probably as a disappointment for Disney / Fox, which is Disney. It came in at number 2 for the weekend. Actually got bested by the Downton Abbey movie of all fucking things, which crushed it with I think like $30-something million in its opening weekend, which was a studio record for, I think, Focus or whoever put it out. I mean, people love them some Downton Abbey, apparently. I've never seen it, so I can't really comment on that, but that's really fucking impressive. Like, I just didn't expect that to have that sort of traction. So, anyway, good on them, I suppose. But, this came in at number 2, $19.2 million in its opening weekend. You know, I feel like it's a tough sell because it's, well, we'll get into it when we talk about the movie, but it's a movie I think the estimates on it were saying that it's anywhere from $80 to $100 million for the budget, and I think it feels like that, and I think it looks like that, and I feel like I'm glad that they used as much money as they did to make this movie, at least outright, but I'm not wholly shocked to see it not do exceptionally well, I will say. But worldwide, it's sitting at about $45.2 million. So I think overall, this is going to be a disappointment for everyone involved. But I think Fox greenlighted it well before the acquisition. So it's pretty much just Disney continuing to absorb losses from Fox, which bitch as much as you want about, Disney taking over the world, but like Fox was a sinking ship. So, literally, it
case
was,
in point.
Well, exactly, and it's just like I'm glad that they at least made this movie, if nothing else, or greenlit it in the first place. But maybe not a sound investment, you might say. Dark Phoenix, maybe not a sound investment, you might say. The combination of Fox releases, basically it's literally like Disney just lost money on top of the money they spent to just acquire them, with the hope that they can turn the ship around and use it as a medium to eventually profit. But in the short term, Disney obviously knew this is going to be a fucking financial disaster for this particular year because Fox was in such a bad way. So anyway, this is just continuing that trend, I suppose. I don't know that Disney made any sort of real effort to market this film to try to salvage it anyway. But I think that would have been a sunken cost based on what the movie was, compared to how they could have advertised it. I think they were smart about that. So anyway, like I said, I think it's overall a disappointment in terms of box office, but it exists, and we're here to talk about it. And I'm here to ask you how you felt about Ad Astra.
Okay, so Ad Astra is a beautiful movie.
Okay.
I think Ad Astra is a well-written movie. I think Ad Astra has excellent sound design.
I feel a butt coming.
And an excellent score. I think Ad Astra is completely different than what I was expecting it to be. I think Ad Astra's sci-fi tropes are down to a minimum. I don't think that Ad Astra, I don't think is, at least from what I gathered from the movie, Ad Astra is not it's much more a personal movie than it is like a grand sci-fi adventure movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's not. I mean, you go into a space travel movie and you're not expecting it to. I think there's movies that rely heavily on personal journeys and that sort of thing. That also lean into sci-fi tropes. You know what I mean? Kind of like Blade Runner would be one of those, where they're deep movies. And there's a lot of personal connection and stuff there that you can grapple with. But at the same time, if you're not getting those on the surface level, at least you're getting some sort of sci-fi deal. You don't really get a whole lot of sci-fi deal out of this movie, I don't think. I think this movie is 100% wholly a character piece set within a slightly futuristic setting, which isn't bad. I mean, that's good for the genre, I think, because like you don't get a lot of these movies where they have the trappings of a sci-fi movie, but it's a character movie, it's a drama, and that's very much what this movie is. It's a real pretty one. I really appreciated the sound design in this movie, though. Really like when there's a lot of play with silence, which is good because you're in space, and you don't. And the way that they design the sound around the muffled audio within like what would be the spacesuit, I guess. Which was it's a really cool take. And it is a pretty movie. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's definitely not what I was expecting it to be. But that doesn't diminish its value. I mean, it's definitely, I think it's a real good movie. It's certainly not for everybody. I actually took Sarah out on a date night. We ate some Olive Garden, had a little bit of wine, and we went to the movie theater, and she saw her first IMAX movie. And
well, that's exciting.
She fell asleep at the beginning of this movie. She woke up in the middle of the movie, but then she had to go to the bathroom, and then she came back and she fell asleep at the end of the movie.
I mean, how early into the movie did she fall asleep? Like, was it like 15 minutes or like literally like 2 minutes? Because I feel like
probably like half an hour.
Okay,
she probably
it was reflective of the movie not engaging her. You would say then, not like external factors. Like, I'm just really fucking tired.
No, definitely was not that. It just wasn't very engaging for her. It was not her kind of movie.
Wasn't it? Didn't do it for her.
Fair
enough. Yeah.
And I think that's probably going to be the case with a lot of people that go in to see this movie. Sure. I don't think it'll be their kind of movie. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's an art house movie.
I think it's closer to an art house movie than it is to a
$100 million blockbuster movie,
right? Starring
Brad Pitt and fucking Tommy Lee Jones.
When you say that this movie cost maybe close to $100 million, I think it feels that way. I think it looks that way. Absolutely. But it's kind of a like if anyone involved look again. This is why I point to Fox being a sinking ship, because someone should have looked at the script and thought, no, you get $50 million and that's it. You know what I mean?
Make it work. Get creative.
Right. Exactly. But anyway, okay. Yeah. You have any other thoughts? Overall?
Not really. Most of it will probably be in the spoilers.
Okay.
Just know that if you're like a super Star Trek fan, or maybe Star Trek's a bad example because I don't know a bunch of Star Trek fans. If you're a big Star Wars fan, this isn't fucking Star Wars. This isn't Blade Runner. This is something else entirely. And it's about one man's journey, who happens to be traversing space, but it's one man's journey. Which is, like I said, it's a good story. There's nothing wrong with the story. It's a really good story.
I think it's a story that you could have set in any setting.
Correct.
And I think
you could have set it in the Midwest. It would have been the same.
And it would have been a lot cheaper to make. Absolutely. But I feel like you don't... I can't think of a film really like this, where it really is just that personal journey to a grand, with a grand kind of set design behind it, what I mean? Like it's actually really interesting, and for just at the top for my money, I really liked this film. I really enjoyed it. I think that I probably knew that going in because I did pay a little attention to the reviews, which were kind of along those lines of I think warning people, being like, look, this ain't Star Wars, kind of what you're saying, like this is not your typical. It's not Interstellar, you know what I mean? Christopher Nolan is still going to do, Christopher Nolan-like things, but Interstellar, I think, was still an audience-friendly film to watch, even though it probably hammered on some, themes and stuff like that. It's
still a grand sci-fi film, though. It ends like a 2001. That's how that one ends. This one is not 2001. It does not have.
I think it shares DNA with 2001, but it's still a very different film.
It approached. We'll talk about it in spoilers.
I think purely just in terms of pacing, in terms of kind of just
pacings for sure.
I like 2001 is a film that's content to just let things play out. I think this is kind of the same thing.
It's true.
Where it's more focused on just
the pacing is very consistent,
living and breathing within this world without necessarily a sense of forward momentum.
That brings up a good point too. World building is super strong in this movie.
And I think 2001 is the same way, where once it takes that leap into 2001, it really just kind of it lets you explore the world kind of at its own leisure. Like it just kind of instead of just jumping around thing to thing like this, I think is it has set pieces here and there. It has flashier pieces of the movie, but those aren't the focal point.
No.
I think that they're probably in there to try to keep some people engaged that maybe are, losing the plot a little bit, which again, that's not, I don't,
it's not to its detriment.
Right. And I just think that this is the type of movie, as you were saying, it's not going to be for everyone. And I think I think you can even look at the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is now verified. I think you have to purchase a ticket to be able to review it now, and people are not liking it. Like critically, it's doing very well. Audience-wise, I think people are just thinking, what the fuck is this movie? And I think people are expecting one thing and getting something else. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe when, like, you and I have very similar sensibilities, so even though you didn't get probably what you were expecting walking in, the fact that you and I share similar tastes means that you're like, oh no, this other thing is actually still pretty cool.
Yeah.
But this ain't going to be for everyone. And I think that's kind of the thing. So I actually have... So I saw it with my girlfriend as well, Anna, and we have talked about it a couple times on and off since we saw it. We saw it yesterday afternoon, and she really liked it, for the record. But she has kind of sent me some things about things that she didn't like, which we'll get into in spoilers, but she also sent me kind of things that she's seen on Twitter of people reacting in negative ways. So I'll quote so it has a blue check mark. I actually don't even know who this is, but just saw Ad Astra, and is a movie about a brostronaut who space travels to the furthest reaches of the brosphere to make the shittiest podcast ever. Which, like, it's not, I guess, inaccurate if you want to boil it down to, like, the most simplistic read on this film ever. But I think that's indicative of probably how a lot of people are going to see this film as being like,
hilarious.
It's too up its own ass. It's too talky. Like, why is Brad Pitt narrating every 5 minutes? You know what I mean? Like, I think that people are going to take fault with that. And then there's like a retweet of that that says, I'm honestly confused about who this movie is for. Is there a contingency of dumb people who are just clamoring for a very slow-moving version of Star Wars without aliens or Jedi or lightsabers or interesting characters? And it's just like, this isn't even close to Star Wars. Like,
it never tried to be Star Wars either. You completely misread
that's a
the
bad
movie.
read. I think that's a bad take just in general.
Right.
But I point that out just to show that there are people that are expecting Star Wars-esque type things, or even Star Trek-esque. I mean, this is closer to Star Trek than it is to Star Wars.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
I think, and like I said, I think it's a bold move for the genre itself. I think it's good for the genre, because not like you say, you can't think of another movie like this. You can have...
No, because most studios wouldn't greenlight this fucking film. That's why. Not at the level that they did.
You can have a drama movie set in space. Yeah. You can have that. There's no reason why you can't. It would have been perfectly acceptable if both those people watched this movie set in the Midwest. They may have liked it, but they went in expecting like you said, dude. I mean, they went in expecting one thing, they got another. Those are both very bad reads.
I agree. I almost felt bad quoting and like giving any sort of credit to that take whatsoever, but I honestly think that that's a common enough sentiment that I put it out there.
Yeah, and that one was
kind of to piggyback
funny.
off of what you're saying of just being like, you may not like this. Like, I think you gotta walk into this film knowing what it is. I think that's the most important thing.
That's to the fault of the marketing,
right? I honestly don't think that the marketing made it seem like Star Wars or anything like that. To me, feels like people ascribing their own take onto it, but at the same time, I don't think it did definitely try to sell you with the visuals. And I mean, there are visuals aplenty in this film to sell you. Like, if you can work off of aesthetic alone, this is a movie for you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I can.
Cinematography here is absolutely astonishing. Like, I mean,
beautiful.
I feel like we've had a pretty good string of space movies recently, or at least space content recently, I suppose. Gravity, obviously a few years back, is kind of one that stands out.
Blade Runner, fucking Blade Runner.
Blade Runner is another one. I think
it's not really space, but
yeah,
sci-fi-ish, sci-fi movie.
Yeah, but and then like The Expanse too. To branch into TV. I think there's definitely, to me, I felt some Expanse vibes at times. The Expanse, obviously, more of a far-flung future with a little bit more advancement in terms of how the world has built out from where it is now. Whereas this feels like a future that's not too distant, but it's distant enough that things are. Which
I gathered that from the trailers, and I really appreciated that too, which is pretty cool. Like there's a base, there's another base somewhere, which is pretty cool, right. But at the end of the day, there's only one person that went beyond the asteroid belt. Just fucking, you know what I mean? It's you're not that far ahead, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So I don't know. We can get into spoilers when you want, man. Or recommendations, I guess.
I have just a couple non-spoiler thoughts just to kind of round out kind of my overall take. Obviously, I liked it. I've said as much already. Hoyt van Hoytema is the cinematographer on this. I think he deserves a shout out for his work here. He's done a lot of excellent work in the past. He actually did the cinematography on Interstellar.
Did he really?
Dunkirk. Yeah, he's worked with Nolan a lot. He's also doing Tenet, his upcoming film as well. So
he knows his way around the camera.
He does indeed. I also think that Brad Pitt deserves a shout because it's his movie. If we've established one thing in our conversation thus far, it's that it's Roy's movie. It's a movie about Roy McBride, and you need an actor that can bring the appropriate amount of pathos to that type of character to make a story that is this drilled into one character and one character's psyche work. You have to have a performer that can command the screen and that can make you invest into a flawed character, an honestly flawed character. Someone that's not always eminently likable, but someone I think that has understandable motivations for why he does what he does and why he does.
We take a second to fucking shout out Brad Pitt. I mean, just in general, Brad Pitt's a fucking incredible actor.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean,
dude doesn't play in enough movies, man.
I can't think of a bad Brad Pitt good God, a bad Brad Pitt performance. I mean, I'm sure he's been in bad films, but I feel like he, and a surprisingly kind of, varied types of performance. Like this is a lot more introspective performance, whereas, when we saw him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a little bit more suave character in that. He's a cool, Cliff Booth was, he's
been doing some extra work. I guess he's doing more work here recently. Past couple of years, past little bit here, we got 2 Brad Pitt movies this year, which I guess is he's doing. He's doing. Yeah, he's doing. It seems like he's doing more now. I guess.
He might. Be.
Anyways, yeah.
Maybe he takes. I mean, he's probably got plenty of money, so he can probably slow down if he needs to. But he was also in Deadpool too. I was just looking at his filmography for literally a second, I think.
Oh yeah. You got zapped with power lines. That's right. He's also Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah. Like I said, he's been in some bad films, but that doesn't mean he's bad in it. All right.
No.
Again, just a shout out to him because he has to make this movie work. Like he has to carry this movie on his shoulders because that's the type of movie that this movie was designed to be, and he does it. I think he absolutely does it. I think in lesser hands, the movie fails because you cannot. Like I said, I think in spite of Roy's flaws and in spite of certain things that happen throughout the movie, I always felt invested in his storyline and where it was going and his relationship to, with his father and such like that. So I felt like shouting out Brad Pitt is the most appropriate thing to do. It's really the only thing you can do at this point.
And he does he does these really cool things in this movie. There's a lot of close-up shots of his face. Like he does a lot of really cool, like I don't know if maybe he has these, like he's got these like little twitches under his eyes. And I saw it in IMAX. And boy, was it fucking pretty in IMAX.
But I'm jealous.
Yeah.
The IMAX closest to me, I don't know if they're renovating it or what, but they haven't had IMAX showtimes in there in like a month, so I don't know what's going on there.
Sucks.
So if I have to IMAX anything, it's like a 30-minute drive or so. So
definitely a pretty movie on IMAX.
Yeah, just timing and distance wise, it was a 10-minute walk to a theater versus a
trek,
versus a 30-minute drive. So I suppose you can see the convenience argument to be made there, but this is
micro
a movie I think that I really would have enjoyed, at least in Dolby, if nothing else too. But
yeah, but Brad Pitt's micro expression, he's got like these twitches under his eyes and stuff when he starts to get stressed.
Yeah,
he gets interviewed and whatnot.
I didn't see Brad Pitt. I saw Roy McBride.
Or Roy McBride, I should say. Yeah, no,
I'm not saying that like to criticize how you're looking at it. I just mean like the way that Brad Pitt inhabited this character,
nailed it.
You could take you can put aside to the fact you're like, oh, that's Brad Pitt, one of the most recognizable people in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like you can put that aside and think, wow, he's in this. Like he's going for it and he's crushing it. So that was my take on that. Last thing I'll just mention before we get into recommendation is just parroting something else you already said. I really, really enjoyed the world building of this film. I think it's done more subtly than other things, and like there's just things here and there that are just like take a step back and you're just like, that's really fucking cool. Like I was a lot of moments in this film where I just took a step back and I thought like, oh, that's really fucking cool. Yeah. And I enjoyed that it didn't feel so detached from reality that it felt unrealistic at points. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm sure the physics and space shit in this is probably not completely scientifically accurate. I'm guessing it's not. I don't know enough about it to say it if it is or not. But it never bothered me in that sense. And just the things that were obviously not quite, the technology being maybe a little bit more advanced than it is now, like it still felt like a natural build onto our world. So I thought that was really well handled. And I guess we can jump into recommendation then. Sounds like you're okay with that. I'm going to go ahead and say it's a theater recommendation for me with the obvious caveat of if you have listened to our conversation, that will hopefully inform you of whether this is something that you think you'll like or not. I think if you know that if you're okay with it being more of a character piece, to the backdrop of space and space travel, I think you'll like it. I think you'll at least find something to pull out of it that you'll enjoy it. It doesn't mean that you'll obviously like it per se, but I just think you have to know what kind of film this is before you walk in the door. I think you have to set your expectations straight, and maybe, as it was the case with you, might fall into liking it anyway if you don't. But I think that just based on the reactions I shared, this is the kind of film you have to know what you're getting into. But for me, I knew what I was getting into. It was something I felt like I was inclined toward. So I was very happy with what I got. So I will share that sentiment and say, again, go see it in theaters. Andrew, what do you think?
My recommendation on Ad Astra is that know what you're getting into, like you say. Mm-hmm. That is imperative. I mean, even if you don't know what you're getting into, just it's beneficial to know what you're getting into. I think that's the key point, because I didn't know what I was getting into, but I still enjoyed it on the merits of it's a well-made movie. So yeah, wholeheartedly recommend it. I recommend it on the largest format you can because it's a beautifully shot movie. And like I said, the cinematography and the sound design alone made it worth the IMAX experience. So that's what I say about it. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into spoilers then. Full spoilers for Ad Astra. I was thinking we might work backwards, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear what you thought about the ending.
So I thought this movie was anticlimactic.
Are you talking third act as an entirety, or are you talking purely like maybe the last few minutes?
No, I think the third act in general.
Okay.
Right. I was expecting a swell 2001-esque. I was expecting once I got into the movie.
Sunshine, Kappa's Jump, something like that?
Yeah, just something something totally bonkers.
He did fucking surf through goddamn Neptune's ring, so
he did do that, which was pretty crazy. I mean, I guess that's pretty climatic with the fucking shield from the paneling.
Apparently they actually made the debris field more dense than it actually probably would be in real life. I read that. So it's actually a little bit more jazzed up for the film. Now, I don't know exactly. I mean, I guess obviously the spacesuits, you can propel yourself through space, but I'm not sure if I feel like his accuracy was pretty impressive. So anyway, good on him. He's a good astronaut.
Yeah, I don't know orbital mechanics enough to say whether or not that...
Right. I'm not going to question any of this shit because I'm just like, whatever, it's the future. Technology is probably better anyway. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, we'll say. He was a pretty renowned fucking dude, though, apparently. His pulse never exceeded...
He fucking landed that shit like a boss. He's like, give me the fucking controls, asshole.
Yeah. But I mean, as a character, like I said, you have to kind of recognize that the movie wasn't going for grand. It wasn't going for a huge sci-fi deal. So
right, you could have had aliens showing up in the third act. You could have.
Right.
I think there's an expectation of that, of, the whole thing about the Lima Project is there, life beyond humanity out in the far reaches of the solar system. We get an answer. It's just not the most exciting answer, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't the answer anybody wanted. It wasn't the answer that he wanted whenever the Lima Project concluded. He wasn't able to reach life, and it's not the answer that he wanted. In the movie, and I thought that was an interesting take. I thought that was an interesting take for the story. That the father kind of went bonkers there at the end. He's been spending all that time alone and trying to reach life or contact life, and like you said, like they said in the movie, the answer might not necessarily be what you want. But the answer's been staring you square in the face. It's what humanity needs at this time, is all these other planets, which was an interesting. Like I said, that was an interesting place for the story to go. I definitely didn't see it going in that direction. But I found it, like I said, anticlimactic only because with the direction that the story was going, I was expecting a 2001 swell at the end, and I kind of didn't get that. But yeah, like as a character piece, though, I think it was a rewarding growth for Brad Pitt's character for sure. I think his character had an arc, and it was a sound arc. You know what I mean?
Right, and I think it's an interesting decision to literally have him able to talk to his father at the end, because I think there's a version of this film that his father's long dead. Has been dead for years now, and I feel like they obviously felt that it was pertinent for Roy to be able to talk to his dad, to have that personal resolution, to be able to kind of propel him to have that closure, to kind of be able to close the chapter, if you will. And I think the film interestingly does play with kind of somewhat of the audience expectations, where when you first see Tommy Lee Jones at the end, you're just like, okay, what's going on here? Like, it's almost kind of a trippy thing where he just kind of sees him from above, and it's like a casual conversation. It's like, all right, is Roy just losing his fucking mind at this point? What's going on?
Yeah, because he was tripping balls in the fucking ship on the way there.
Yeah, well, he's been going through some shit, obviously, to get to this point in general. So, but I think it's an interesting decision. I think anticlimactic is probably an accurate way to describe it. For me, I really just wasn't sure exactly how they were going to go. Probably. Well, I think it's just not an exciting third act. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's going to be a bad thing if you set your expectations to have some sort of bombastic resolution, to have the swell, to have the build-up, then it's going to feel anticlimactic, because that's what you would usually expect in a film like this, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's more than that, though, because, I mean, they I mean, don't get me... He's got the antimatter reactor on the ship, or whatever it is. I think that's what they said it was in the movie.
Yeah, it's like the reactor, right?
And it's causing all this. It's literally destroying Earth, It's
pulses,
killing
right. Yeah.
millions of people all the time, or hundreds of thousands of people all the time.
Yeah, I think it's thousands, but yeah, it's a lot of people.
A lot of people are just fucking dying around the planet. It almost killed Roy in the very beginning of the movie, you know? And for it to come, he gets all the way across the fucking solar system, and it's literally just like a short-circuiting thing on the ship, and he's like, yeah, they tried to fuck me, and I had to kill them all, and it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's like, well, I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to shut the ship down. We're going to blow the shit up, and we're going to get out of here. I don't know. I'm not hostile towards it, because like I said, it was a good end.
I think it makes sense for the world, but I think it's a lot of the case of just expectations creeping in, of just being like, well, what if this or what if that,
right?
And I think that's a natural thing to think about. Is there some sort of alien existence at play, or is it something like
just
his father's
nature.
just an asshole, and something with the Lima Project that he has deliberately done is a retaliation towards mankind in general? Like, what's the angle? And the angle is like, ship's fucked up, and so whatever. But he's also kind of in his own world where he's like, we got to find life. We got to find life, that sort of thing. So like I said, I think it's just an interesting decision to take the third act where it does, more than anything else. For me, I think this is probably true, and he probably could have said this before we got into spoilers. I think this is a film that it'll probably hold up and offer something more on repeat viewings.
For sure, yeah, it's definitely.
I think there's a lot more to this film, and I think a lot of it maybe it's just as simple as recalibrating expectations to know what you're getting into.
It's an introverted movie for sure. It's good.
So I think if you know kind of the nature of where the third act goes, the nature of Roy's interactions with his father, what's going on with the pulses and stuff like that, I think that maybe helps the movie. It settles it down a little bit, and it lets you just kind of, instead of being so preoccupied with what's this, what's that, it just lets you live with Roy as he lives. Like, I don't think Roy himself is too fussed about
not seeing aliens,
people dying like around him,
yeah.
Because of these pulses. Well, or sealing aliens for that matter too. Like, it's that personal story. It's that resolution that he so desperately has craved since his father left on this project, basically abandoning him. It's a real daddy issues kind of situation, obviously. So, but okay. So I'll take a step back because I feel like I'm probably just going to start rambling here. But I asked you about the ending because I was curious about that particularly, but I was also more granularly focused on actually the last kind of bits after that as well. So he takes the nuclear blast, he blows up everything, he gets the data, recovers it, and then he rides the wave back home.
Right.
And then there's a little bit more to the movie than just that, because we kind of get more of the personal resolution. It's not just, oh, okay, he's maybe, maybe he's going to get vaporized by the nuclear blast, or maybe he's riding the nuclear wave back to Earth. We see him arrive back on Earth. We see him, taken out of the pod, and we see him kind of have like a closing narrative to close the loop of kind of how everything is, and he reconnects with Eve, Liv Tyler's character. Like, there's just a lot in the ending. And I wanted to ask you, did you feel like it was too much? Did you need that extra resolution? Did it feel tacked on for you in any way?
No.
Did it feel natural?
It felt like it did feel natural. It felt like you have his story arc, and then you have how he's grown. Because if Roy in the beginning of the movie did whatever he did, like he fell off the fucking space antenna or whatever, and he's very much a different person. In the beginning of the movie, he was so focused on his drive and his career and this and that, and he had trouble making personal connections and everything else. But then when he returns after he's concluded that chapter with his father, he's grown into a different person. He wants to reconnect, and he wants to put more effort in his personal life and his relationships, and he thinks he can open up to those sort of relationships and stuff. And I thought it felt good. I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it.
I was
For
just
sure. It felt
curious,
like
'cause
it felt like a natural evolution of his character, which was cool.
I'm kind of somewhere. Okay, so I will. So Anna, she said that she wanted Roy to die at the end. She was straight up just feeling like
Have him get vaporized.
he did not deserve to have a happy ending, and I kind of sympathize with where she's coming from. I think I'm probably somewhere in between both of where you guys are, both of where you come down on it. And I think the thing that we talked about a lot, after the movie, was the fact that, so basically his whole thing of, hijacking the vessel that on Mars, going to Neptune.
He's his father's character.
Well, they try to do as much to like minimize the fact that Roy dispatches the other crew members, but the bottom line is, whether you say that the crew members killed themselves or he had an active part in killing them. I mean, it's like the I don't know what happened, like the gravity thing. The woman basically goes splat.
Yeah.
And the knife guy draws the knife on him and starts attacking him, and he's self-defense, and then and the guy, the new captain, whatever he is, the lieutenant, he just suffocates because he panics or whatever. It's like
well, that thing, they shot the hydrant. The hydrant put.
That's right. Well, yeah, he shoots that. That's right. So the oxygen supply goes bye-bye. So it's kind of just one of those things where it's just like none of those are like super directly like Roy just being like, and he infiltrating the ship and killing them just so he could take over as the soul. Like he's very much like, listen, I'm already on. Let's just do this thing or whatever. Like I just want to go with you or kind of whatever. But it does feel like the ending for me, it kind of glosses over a lot of that.
Well, it's just like it's like I said, he's his father's character up until the point where he concludes the interaction with his dad,
which is fine. It's just like when he comes back, like I just feel like people would be like, "Hey, actually, you were supposed to go home. We know that you infiltrated that ship. We know that those crew members are dead because you told us." It's just kind of just like it feels like I think it's particularly the scene in the cafe where it just feels like a little bit too much sappiness.
Glossed over. Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay. It just feels like okay, so technically in a way he did save the world, right?
Yeah.
By virtue of nuking the ships, nuking the Lima project.
Right.
But those guys were going to do that anyway. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't know why they
not
have
only
three
did
basically
he save
civilians.
The planet, he saved the planet by nuking the antimatter.
He got the
reactor.
data.
He got the data and provided Earth with infinitely more resources.
Yeah,
that was currently shut off. So he provided a future for the world and ended the immediate problem.
I just think
with the murder of 4 people.
Right, and it's just one of those like, okay, great or good or whatever. I just kind of felt like, especially given that Liv Tyler's character was basically non-existent through this entire film, to me it felt like I kind of honestly felt like they needed it honestly felt like reshoots, like a tacked on type thing of like, well, because of the way the character's written, he's kind of a closed off character and he has these very introverted issues that he himself experiences while he puts out this outward expression that everything's okay, which is very relatable, right? I think that to me it felt like they added things to try to make him feel like a more relatable, like a more typical protagonist for like oh my God, we spent $100 million on this film and we need people to like this character. But I think that's, for me, I think that's somewhat of a misstep because I don't think you need to necessarily like your central character. I think it's okay for him to be flawed.
The majority of the movie.
I mean, I liked him because I liked Brad Pitt, but at the same time, I acknowledge that he did some.
He's a broken character.
Shitty things here and there, and mostly he was just kind of a detached character, because of the issues that he had experienced. So, anyway, I just, like I said, I kind of ended somewhere between like I think it was okay. I wasn't rooting for him to actively die. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go so far to say that.
I think it was a very deliberate. I thought it was a very deliberate way to express the fact that through the course of the movie, although he didn't realize it and he didn't want it to be that way, but we got Tommy Lee Jones' character throughout the entire course of the movie, but then he was able to grow from that and probably not the best of ways, but it was a very deliberate way to show that he's changed. and whether or not it was needed, that's up for debate.
And so I guess, let me see if I can find it. Basically, the director, James Gray, he's kind of talked about how he ended the movie. And he's basically said that he wanted to end it on, I think, kind of a more ambiguous note, whereas Brad Pitt was actually the one to come up to him and say, well, you kind of need to have a little bit more personal resolution for the character, which obviously worked for you, and I think I actually probably lean more towards Gray wanted to do, and this is what he said. He said, the ending became a sort of collaboration and compromise point. The last thing on earth I want is to reject the audience and have them think the movie is totally downbeat at the end. After a whole series of discussion over a 4-month period, I finally said, okay, fine. My idea for the ending is still there, and if you want to see it, you just have to stop your TV 40 or 50 seconds early. So okay. I don't know if he necessarily wanted to end with, my understanding is I think maybe it was
him coming out of the ship.
It's either coming out of the ship or with him blasting off with the nuke and fade to white, and then that's the movie. I think if you end it with him like landing on Earth and coming out, like I think that's good because it at least gives you that. It gives you enough resolution to show that there's a future for that character, and now that even if you have that, like if you could probably move the closing narration to over that sequence, and it probably, for me, I think that would work better as a closing. I just didn't think you needed the extra 1 or 2 codas after that really seal the deal of him, like,
right
now he's getting back together with his ex-wife, who's not a character in this film. Like
that's true. She was very much a nothing character in the movie,
and so I just kind of, to me, that just kind of felt like a one and one more thing. And it's like, it's not a bad thing per se. It didn't it really didn't impact my viewing of the film all that significantly. I just kind of felt like it felt interference-y, and not my initial suspect. I suspected it was like studio interference. What's going on here, but I know I think it's something where I think that Brad Pitt probably recognized that you can't have this film be 2 hours of a pretty slow-moving, kind of dour, introspective piece and then end on a note that
is also
leaves you totally
ambiguous. Yeah.
Ambiguous, unresolved. I think I get that sentiment of let's throw them a bone, but it also, to me, felt like throwing a bone. So that's kind of where I was just like, I would have taken a step back there personally. But there's some other cool shit in this movie. Anyway, I said I wanted to get on that because that's kind of been what I've been talking about for the past day and a half. Because like I said, I really, really liked it, and how they wrote it absolutely really did not impact my enjoyment of this film. I just think that could have been a nose stronger. I think if it had ended probably where Gray, I think, anticipated ending it. But
I thought Mars was very much Blade Runner. Some Blade Runner cinematography and color deals from Blade Runner, which was pretty cool. So
I liked all the moon stuff. I thought the moon stuff was fucking cool.
The moon stuff was cool. Fucking
just
space
like the
pirates on the fucking
commercial
moon.
flight. And there's a fucking moon airport and shit. Like, I'm like, honestly,
$200 for a pillow.
Yeah, right. Oh, and a blanket too. Come on now.
And a blanket too, right?
Like, to me, that felt like the most realistic. Like, obviously, we're not there yet.
It felt 2001 for sure.
It sure wouldn't be surprising, you know what I mean? So that was good.
At least that space sequence, the traveling to the moon, felt 2001. That felt very pulled up.
Yeah, it did.
2001. So.
Moon Pirates. I liked Moon Pirates a lot. I thought that was a badass fucking sequence.
Yeah,
that was some cool shit. What else? The baboons. Wasn't expecting any baboons in this film.
Fucking crazy, dude.
That was fucking out of nowhere.
Let's stop and get this ship. That is a curious thing. Like, hey, listen, you can technically pull rank and take control of this vessel, but then I have to know what you're pulling it for. Like, I don't know if that's how things would really work. I think you could just probably fucking pull rank and just take advantage of the vessel.
Space Force, dude. Are you part of Space Force? You don't even know.
I don't know. That's true. Yeah, technically you couldn't pull rank, but we have to know what you're doing. No, bitch, it's espionage mission. I don't have to tell you anything. Fucking pull rank. But what else was there? The fucking antenna. The intro of the movie is super fucking intense,
that was awesome.
dude.
That was good.
It's crazy.
I also was just kind of like, wait, is this one of those movies where he dies in the beginning and like the whole movie is just like, and this is how I died? You know, like I don't like. Yeah. But that was pretty awesome.
Super intense.
I mean, I think a lot of the just quote unquote set pieces for, you know, I think they're brief and fleeting, but when they're there, they really feel earned and really feel impactful.
Yeah.
Like the beginning is
with the
one.
exception of the surfing of the.
Even though I thought that was pretty cool. Like I mean, it was a little over the top, sure, but like I didn't mind that personally.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a little. There's just a little. It felt like it was from a different movie. Felt like. Yeah. Well, I mean that could be said about a lot of the thing though. It felt like a homage to a lot of great sci-fi movies. There's a lot of cool stuff that was going on in there, but yeah, I enjoyed the Mars sequence. They get off there as a fucking subway at the Mars terminal, which is pretty cool. All the little restaurants and stuff, and my dad would have a shit fit if he was here.
What I enjoyed is the guy with the man bun on Mars was the same guy that played one of the Martian lieutenants in the first season of The Expanse. He was the one that did all the interrogation of the Kant crew. And he was playing a very kind of similar character, just kind of like, you know, very straight-laced, militaristic kind of character, emotionless, kind of just being like, don't worry about it, bro. You know? So it was kind of fun. But to me, like I was already getting Expanse vibes, just kind of the nature of it. And then that was just like another thing, like a layer on top of just being like, oh, well, they actually brought that guy in too. I have Lauren Dean. He was the lieutenant that, you know, kind of panicked when he was trying to land the ship.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
That's the guy from Gattaca, man. I haven't seen that guy in probably literally anything since Gattaca. He was I guess I shouldn't really, I mean, Gattaca's been around for
fucking pull
a couple
Gattaca
decades,
reference, damn.
But he was the kind of the bad guy in Gattaca, i.e. not Ethan Hawke or not the Uma Thurman character.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's not really
investigating?
spoiler, but isn't, I think, or the non-Jude Law character as well. But he's
the one investigating the deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And is it a spoiler? I don't know. I feel isn't it? I think he's Ethan Hawke's brother in the movie. He's the one like they have the swimming thing.
Oh, okay. Is that who that was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, sorry if I spoiled the 1997 film Gattaca for anyone that hasn't watched in the past.
Oh, I find it interesting that guy was super gun shy about doing really anything, but Brad Pitt sneaks on that fucking ship. He wants to pull a gun on him and start shooting rounds inside the fucking spaceship. Is that the same guy?
Loose cannon, man.
Is that what it is? He's just fucking crazy. What a day that guy's had, right? Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the biggest thing to walk away from is that I really enjoyed the writing of it. I thought it was, I don't know.
It's a film that's content to do its own thing, and I think that's totally cool. I think that's very respectable. It doesn't. And honestly, I think it does feel closer to an art house film, one that doesn't feel super pressured to be any one thing or to fit into someone's expectations for what this genre is supposed to be. Like it's
got its story and it tells it.
Like I said, I've never seen a film like this before.
Yeah, it's definitely not set within that. Definitely not set in space and stuff. So
right, and I think I said as much when we were talking about box office. I'm glad that some dumbass decided to greenlight this film for close to $100 million, because I think we'll never see the likes of this again. Because
not for a while,
because this isn't the kind of the movie that's going to make you money. Like it's just as simple as that. And making movies is business. You know, you're trying to maximize profits, and so the fact that something like this exists, I think we have to appreciate it for what it is and be happy that we got what we got, and accept that it's a one of a kind of thing. You know, we get movies every now and then where even like Blade Runner 2049 was just kind of like, oh, holy shit, they're making this movie, and it was. I feel like that was less of a risk because it was at least based off of an established property that was.
Same thing with like First Man. I think First Man was another one of these movies, but it was a period piece, not really.
I mean, First Man's budget had to be half of this, if I had to guess.
And that's where you have to get creative. You know, they got really creative in that movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up the budget for that. First Man, it's listed 60 to 70, so a little bit lower, but still decent. Yeah,
and even still, that was based on a historical person, and it's not its own.
True. So it had, it probably had that biopic period piece appeal that this one is. It has a very definitively sci-fi bent to it. So
right. So,
right.
But
anyway,
that's I think that's at Astra, man. I don't.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Natasha Lyonne's 5-second cameo.
Oh, the one that says, "Oh, your father. You didn't get the whole story on your father. Yeah, he murdered everybody on the ship." That one.
No. That was Ruth Negga. She was in it for like 5 seconds. She's I think it's when he first gets to either the. I think it's maybe when he first gets to the moon at like the. It's when he gets inside the base at the moon after the moon pirates, and she's just kind of like a super offbeat character, and like everyone's super serious, then she's just kind of out there like doing her own thing. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, she's been in Orange Is the New Black and what was that? Russian
That's
Doll?
right. Sarah pointed that out. I haven't seen that show.
Russian Doll. I was right. Yeah, Russian Doll. I haven't seen it, but anyway, it's the one, it's like the Groundhog Day. She keeps waking up and has to live the same day over and over again. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it's fine. What have you been up to lately, sir? Anything?
So I've been watching a lot of college football recently.
College football?
Yeah.
Watching them dogs?
I did watch the Bulldogs. It's
a close game. Close game this past weekend.
Yeah, they had a hard game. That was a nail biter for sure. But I watched the Bulldog game. That was good. They're what, 4-0 now? I think it is.
Either 3 or 4 now. Yeah, they're undefeated so far.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good. Watched the UF game as well. Watched that at work. Put that on the TV at work for everybody to watch. And they crushed Tennessee.
Satisfying.
Yeah, with their second string quarterback, because that dude destroyed his ankle the last game. Mm-hmm. Fucked up his ankle. Lord have mercy.
Yeah. Rest in
so
peace, Felipe Franks.
I've been watching the footballs. Let's see here. I recently renovated my bathroom. Still working on it. Got still some things to do.
Last minute things, sure.
Looks dramatically different than what it looked like before. I sanded and painted cabinetry and painted and hung a mirror and changed a light fixture and all sorts of handyman adult activities. I also so Sarah has not seen any of the Lord of the Rings. Not starting her with The Hobbit. Started her with Fellowship. We got 45 minutes in, and she said she was tired and she had to go to bed. So we're gonna.
Well, she's got a ways to go. So
and I have
it's probably the best to not just press her. Well, no, you've only got 3 more hours to watch.
Right. So we got to where little Frodo was gonna get out of the Shire.
I mean, honestly. You could re-edit that entire trilogy into like a 12-episode, 13-episode TV series.
You could.
And I feel
that's
that's
why I tried to split it and try to push her
really
until
lose too much value, I think, in doing that. You know what I mean?
So
as long as you watch them close enough, in succession to not forget everything that's already happened.
Try to do 30, 40 minutes every night, and each little chapter snippet. So they left the Shire. Really enjoyed the Shire experience. Little hobbits are fantastic people.
Mr. Frodo.
Love them. Love those movies. And that's really been it. Just
what about Secret Breakfast?
Lots of work. Yeah, so I'm excited to go down the journey of the Lord of the Rings again. I haven't watched it in a while.
I feel like the Howard Shore score is just comfort food,
oh, it's
man.
beautiful.
You know what
so
I mean?
Good.
Like you
so
just,
good.
You just feel at home when you watch Lord of the Rings, man.
You do. Like it is like coming home.
You can just live there. You can just live in that fucking world. I mean, it's a shame that The Hobbit happened, but like those aren't the worst movies ever made. But like The Lord of the Rings, man, like that's just art, man. Like that trilogy there, like it will. I think it will stand the test of time. Honestly,
so good, so good. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to diving into that.
It's almost 20 years old too, and that's kind of crazy to think about, isn't it?
It is bonkers, and it still looks outstanding,
still holds up.
man.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Good. It's good shit. But that's it. That's all I've really been doing.
Cool.
What do you got, man?
My list is going to sound pretty similar to what it did last week, or last episode, whenever that was. So it'll probably sound relatively new to you, because I'm not sure how cognizant you were.
That's true.
when we were 2 hours plus in last time. But apologize to our listeners for hitting on the same points. But I've made a little progress on the things that I talked about previously. I finished Young Justice Invasion, second season of Young Justice. We lost a hero. Unfortunately, I won't spoil who that was, but it hurt my heart. I will say as much. And the third season, I haven't started yet, Young Justice Outsiders. That's the one that was part of the DC Universe revival. So, like, Young Justice Invasion aired, like, 5+ years ago. And then the new season's came out, I think it started last year. So I will probably start that up relatively soon. And I'm not sure if it's all done airing yet. It's DC Universe does the weekly releases, but I intend to get started on that train pretty soon. I finished The Good Place Season 1. Incredible television. First 3 seasons are up on Netflix. I think I've said that before, but highly, highly encourage anyone to watch The Good Place. Kristen Bell is great in it. Ted Danson is fucking hilarious in it. Really, really charming cast. Really, really fun premise. And an excellent execution of it. You know, it really kind of keeps you on your toes. It's very well paced. It's pretty serialized for, like, kind of the type of TV that it is. You know, it's basically a sitcom in a way, but it touches on, I don't know, it feels like it has a touch more to it than most sitcoms, I think, do typically. I started season 2. I think I'm 3 episodes into it technically, and it is fully within its stride. It's already hit its stride at this point, and it's just keeping the train going. So I'm looking forward to catching up on that. Season 4 started airing live on NBC for anyone that has watched any of the previous seasons. Make sure you watch some of the new stuff, because it's probably pretty dope if I had to guess. Halfway through Glow Season 3. As a side note, it's gotten renewed for a 4th and final season over at Netflix, which is very, very exciting. I've been kind of working my way slowly through it, but I will finish the back half of it before long. And last but not least, been pouring more and more time into Fire Emblem 3 Houses, man. It's just so good. I just can't help myself. So mild spoilers for this game. I don't think anyone listening is going to care that much. But basically, the way the game is set up is the conceit of the game is you're a professor at the academy. There's 3 houses. Basically, there's 3 different classes within the academy, and you choose to be the lead of one of the houses. And it has, like, you have like 8 students that you're in charge of. Basically, is kind of the thing. So you have to kind of pick your poison. Who do you want to be in charge of? This house, or this house? You pick your house. And
the houses have certain class abilities or anything?
No, it's all pretty shared, but each character is kind of, unique personality and stuff like that. And then there's basically the first half is just that, and then there's a thing that happens, and then there's a 5-year time skip. And when you come back from the time skip, all hell is broken loose, basically, and the 3 houses are now at war with each other. So, like, the whole continent is engulfed in war, and based on the route that you've picked, you're now basically leading the charge from one side to either crush the other houses or ally with certain parts of the houses and stuff like that. So it's actually really cool the way that it kind of has devolved into this thing. But it's kind of heartbreaking, because I spent like 30 hours like meeting these characters and talking to these characters, and now I'm facing them on a battlefield and I have to potentially kill them, like, within the game. Just otherwise I'll lose my units. And I'm doing the classic mode on Fire Emblem, where if your characters die, they're gone. The XCOM thing too. So
oh yeah, Iron Man. You Iron Man in it.
So
I know all about Iron Man. Fucking.
So it's kind of XCOM. So, like, I've actually played it so far where I've only had to kill one former student, and I've actually managed to avoid killing other ones. And I can, as long as you defeat, like, the general of their army before there's a way to beat it without having to kill all the people. But I feel like it's inevitable at some point that's going to be not a viable strategy.
Were there dicks that you went to school with that you like? Was that guy an asshole that you fucked in the battlefield?
No, I felt bad. He was like a nerdy kid with glasses and shit.
Oh, Colton.
But, like, I mean, he was kind of annoying or whatever. But, like,
you fucking ran his ass down.
Well, he attacked me first. I had no choice.
Oh, Lord.
And he had a fucking bow that was fucking my shit up. Like, he almost killed one of my guys, so it was like an instant being like, well, I can't take another hit from this guy, so you're going down. It was pretty much the bottom line. So it was a tactical decision more than anything else. I killed him with. I felt like it was story appropriate for the character to kill him because he's been like super gung ho for like my side. It's just like he has like this vision for the world that he's confident and seeing carried out. So I think there's actually 4 different paths that you can take. Anyway, I'm doing one of those, and if I wanted to actually beat the game in its entirety, it'd probably take me 200 plus hours. So I don't know if that will happen, but
you're still in it though.
40 hours in. 40 plus hours in, I'm into it. So I think it's great. It's really cool. But I think the way they handled the time skip stuff is actually really cool because they did something similar in one of the previous games, but it didn't work as well because there wasn't a whole lot of investment in the characters, and here there was investment in the characters. So it's like really tough when like you're forced to kill this character, and they make it as gruesome as possible. Not like literally gruesome, like, you know, like you're cutting his head off or whatever. Like, but it's like the way like his death scene was very protracted, and it's like it goes into slow-mo, and there's like a protracted death scream, and then he has like 2 lines of dialogue, and then someone else on the other like responds like, damn it, he was too young to die. Like, you know, it was just like I was just like, oh fuck, I killed that guy. Yeah, I felt really bad about it. But anyway, I saved, so it's too late now. He's dead.
Fuck him.
It wasn't gonna. If he, I mean, join or die. You know what I'm saying? So. Anyway, that's what I got. Let's wrap this up. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoy what you heard, please spread the word. If you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. $2 a month gets you early access to all of our regular episodes. Additionally, it will get you access to our forthcoming Studio Ghibli bonus episode coming later this month because I only have 2 more movies to watch. I'm going to watch them by the end of tomorrow. We're going to record, if we can, by the end of this week. I'm setting some optimistic goals. That's all. I'm just putting it out there. So it's been like almost 2 months overdue, and that's 100% my fault. So I feel bad, and it's time. It's high time for me to get my shit together and watch those fucking movies because they're good fucking movies. Like,
so the first Studio Ghibli episode is going to consist of which movies?
That will consist of the likes of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Castle in the Sky, Grave of the Fireflies, My Neighbor Totoro, and Kiki's Delivery Service. First 5 films Studio Ghibli put out pre-1990. So there you have it. Look forward to that episode soon. Very soon. It's going to happen. Finally. Sorry for the delay. If you want to find any information about us, head to our website, watchreviewrepeat.com. Click anything on there. I don't know what I was going to say. Just click. There's things to click on there. It's a very clickable website, as you might expect. Follow us on Twitter at WRRPod. Like us on Facebook at Watch Review Repeat. Questions, comments, suggestions. If you have thoughts on Ad Astra, if you've watched anything recently you want to share your thoughts on, please feel free to send those to our Gmail account at watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Next episode will be a couple weeks away, and that's going to be on Joker. Let's see if Venice knows what the fuck they're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So look forward to that. I am looking forward to myself. I'm really curious to see how it turns out, and that's where we are. So Andrew, it's your turn to take the listeners out.
Well, listeners, take care now. Bye-bye then.
Laters on the Menge.